So now that the game is finally out of beta, and I've put quite a few hours into it, we can ask the important questions. Is Raid WWII a reskinned Payday? Is it worth a buy? People have been asking me what I think of the game, so here are my opinions. Now, the skinny is this. Raid WWII is a game developed by LionGameLion, devs that have worked very closely with Overkill in the past. The game itself follows the same co-op, horde mode, shooter-focused gameplay that the Payday series has. And to top it off, it uses the same game engine as well, Diesel. Now, I ain't gonna beat around the bush. This game definitely feels like a reskin Payday. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Obviously, there are people out there that like Payday, and maybe there's something in this game that makes it worth your while. I mean, if you take a look at sequels in the franchise, a lot of the games of said franchise will look very similar, but maybe they've been improved upon, or they do something that's innovative enough to warrant another game. Now, the things I'm going to be critiquing today for Raid are mainly the gameplay and the replayability. Those are what I believe to be the strongest points of the Payday series. I mean, when you think Payday, you don't exactly think amazing graphics, a compelling story, or even a story mode to speak of. It doesn't have great optimization, and, well, the music is actually pretty amazing, but it's a bit unfair to try to compare it to our Lord and Savior Simon Viklund. So first, let's take a look at Raid's gameplay and how it compares to Payday. As I've said before, it follows almost the exact same shooter model, so you're going to expect it to be very similar. But at the same time, it feels a little clunky, not entirely smooth. You know, for one, I feel like hitboxes are a bit wonky, which becomes very apparent in higher difficulties when enemies have a lot of health, and it's crucial to score headshots. But oftentimes I question whether or not I'm actually shooting the head, or the right spot at all. The feel of the AI and your own character model is a lot more comparable to that of Payday the Heist, rather than Payday 2. Slower, a lot more limited. For the gameplay, there is some stealth mechanics in the game, but again, it's much more like Payday the Heist, where it's very bare bones, and outside of a simple body moving mechanic, it's just the same old hide and seek competition, so there's not really much going on that front. One of the stronger things I think about this game are the maps. The maps, while some of them can be small and not really complex, they all feel different from each other, you know? Playing one will not feel the same as playing another, and that gives them each a little bit of a unique identity, in a sense. The scenarios themselves for the maps are also fairly well done. You know, in Payday, there's a lot of maps where, oh, you go to this building and there's a room and you go sit and wait for the drill. You know, with Raid, you're storming a bunker, you're sabotaging a bridge to stop a train. You're ambushing a convoy, you're saving POWs, you're shooting down attack bombers. You know, it just feels a little bit more immersed in that sense, and in doing so, the game tries to offer a few mechanics to play with these maps. Unfortunately, the core gameplay is still very dependent on the gunplay, and in that aspect, it offers nothing new. Most of that can be attributed to the game engine that it uses, and that is actually the main problem that this game has. Raid WWII uses Diesel engine, just like the Payday series, meaning it'll suffer all of the same limitations. The bugs, the bad optimization, the horrendous AI, the desync, all of it is very, very present and very, very frustrating to play with. In fact, it seems like it's even worse than Payday. Most notably for me, the performance of the game is really bad. I had to turn off most of the settings because I kept running into frame drops when I had it on high, and I tried using their new borderless window and just window mode in general. I don't really understand it, but my game suffers like a complete breakdown when I have it on window mode. That might just be me, you know, I haven't really heard of anybody else having these types of problems, but the fact of the matter is, the game runs extremely poorly, and to top it off, it's even susceptible to crashing as well. Now, the game just came out, and it's already crashed a few times. It crashed a few times in the beta, too. And let me just say that this is probably one of the dumbest things that's happening to these games as of late, and these being both Raid and Payday. It's a goddamn meme at this point, that these games crash on a consistent basis.
10 seconds.
What's worse is that it happens so often that we as a community have become accustomed to it, and this is normal. And when we accept it as normal, the devs really have no reason to try and fix any of the problems that these games have. Honestly, when you play another game, crashing is like rare, uncommon, you know? But the fact that when you play like Payday games and they crash all the time, and now Raid too, it's not something we should just accept. Sorry, just mini rant there because it pisses me off to no end. All I can say is that it does not bode well for the future. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the replayability. One of the strongest points of Payday 2 is that it has a very customizable and rewarding skill system that makes the game feel new when you combine different skills for different setups, or even when you just unlock skills. The amount of setups you can make are nearly endless, and that's pretty crucial in a game that's so focused on grinding the same levels over and over. So let's take a look at Raid. In Raid, there are 4 different classes: Insurgent, Assault, Demolition, and Recon. Honestly, they're not special at all. You know, Insurgent gives you some speed and damage reduction. Assault, you can heal yourself and teammates. Demo gives you 1 extra grenade. And Recon gives you auto-aim that doesn't even really work that properly, or consistently. And let's not even talk about the balance either. So of these classes, you can level them up and gain skills. But the skills themselves, they're very unimaginative. You know, they're mostly small buffs like reload faster, run slightly faster, pick lock, lockpick, whatever, little faster, that kind of stuff. But the worst part is that each class mostly has the same skills, the same small increase in speed, the same small increase in yada yada yada. There are only a few differences in each, and it's usually just pertaining to the effectiveness of the Warcry special ability itself. So overall, leveling up each class feels almost the same as like every other class. None of them really feel special in any way, shape, or form. And the weapons, they also have a very similar leveling system in where you can slightly boost the stats, but instead of getting that through EXP upon completing missions, that is done through challenges like kill X many enemies or do X many hipfire kills. But, you know, some of these challenges, they're so god-awful that it makes it incredibly frustrating to do. I'm looking at you, hipfire kills with assault rifles that have less hipfire accuracy than a shotgun with a 2-centimeter barrel. It's just, there's really no incentive to level up, you know? I mean, in Payday 2, there are plenty of skills that can completely change how the game feels. You know, you can go with heavy armor, you can have Inspire, you can have all these sorts of things, and then you can combine them for different unique setups that fit your playstyle. In Raid, the leveling system is just like the gameplay. It's a lot more like Payday the Heist, where the only reason why you level is to play on a harder difficulty, or to make your character feel stronger, instead of, you know, trying new things out, or being able to try. It just doesn't have any of that. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. You know, you may be using the argument that it's unfair to compare Raid to Payday, when Payday has had years to add content, fix bugs, and make it to what it is today. Fair enough. Let's compare base Raid to base Payday 2. Same engine, same gameplay focus, same problems with desync and engine limitations and the like. But Payday, at its base, still had its comprehensive skill system at release, and while it's not quite as extensive and polished as it is now, there was still a lot more to offer. It was definitely more optimized. I can't really remember having performance issues or crashing as often as I did now. And during release, it was, 2013? Raid being released in 2017 the way it is honestly pretty surprising. So, in conclusion, what do I think of the game? I think it's pretty mediocre. Despite how critical and nitpicky I've been about it, it can still be a fun game when you don't think too much about it. You know, after all, it does feel very similar to Payday. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But the main issue I have with the game is that it has very little innovation, or very few new ideas, and nothing that really wows me, you know? It feels too similar to Payday, not really improving upon it while still having basically all the downsides. I mean, it didn't even really try to be different. The main themes are still to go steal gold and go steal Nazi stuff. I was hoping that it would have at least tried to do its own thing. So the problem is that there's just no situation in which I could recommend this game. You know, are you a fan of the Payday series and you played a lot of it? There's nothing really new with Raid. Well, what about people that have never touched any of these types of games? Well, in that case, I just recommend Payday 2. For about the same price, and way more content, you'd probably have a better introduction to these types of games with that. You know, I want to like the game. I really do. I do enjoy my co-op shooters a lot, you guys on my channel know that, but finding decent ones comes few and far in between. The game's atmosphere itself is somewhat fresh, I guess. The old-timey World War II setting can be pretty enjoyable if it's done right. Though, at the same time, it kind of makes me wish that game devs wouldn't be scared to try a new setting, since World War II has also been done to death for shooters, and it's only just making a recent comeback. I was talking to Soze, and we kind of toyed with the idea of having an old school Chicago mobsters type setting for a heisting game. I mean, if you're so intent on making a heisting game, why not take it back to its original roots? But, I digress. The lighthearted humor and just the overall lack of seriousness in this game actually kind of appeals to me. You'll get a lot of people that don't like how stupid it is, don't like how goofy it is. But I'd much rather have cheesy, terrible writing and goofiness over something that tries to take itself too seriously. For the most part, it just seems like the type of game you get with a bunch of buddies, get a few drinks, and turn off your brain for a while. But the shortcomings make it a very hard sell. The potential was there, but the execution didn't quite live up to it. Anyway, those are my opinions. Feel free to tell me that they're wrong. And, well, this video lasted a lot longer than it should have, so I'll see you guys later.